But let's get right to our top story. We start again with those Easter Sunday terror attacks in Sri Lanka. Overnight, the investigation leading to even more suspects. And we're learning more about the hundreds of victims, including the Americans who died. We've got two reports for you. We start with NBC's chief global correspondent, Bill Neely, who is in Sri Lanka for us. Bill, good morning to you.
Good morning, Savannah. It is a national day of mourning here, but also of fear and of anger and of recrimination too. Politicians blaming each other for failing to stop these attacks. And there's a claim this morning that the motive behind them was one of global revenge. The government now saying that retribution for Muslims who were killed a world away was behind this.
Mass mourning after a mass killing. Scores of victims buried today. This small Christian minority targeted and now terrified. Across the nation, minutes of silence to mark the time the bombs exploded. This was the latest blast. 3 bombs exploding as troops tried to defuse them. Debris still scattered near a church. And this morning, a startling claim. A government minister says investigators believe these attacks were in retaliation for the massacre of Muslims in New Zealand last month, but he offered no evidence.
Why weren't the churches protected if you had a warning?
We never expected an attack of this magnitude.
Ministers admit there were warnings of suicide bombings and apologised for not passing them on.
These ribbons are for mourning. But many here are furious that security forces didn't act on warnings about the attacks. And they question how a local group with no history of terrorist bombings could have been capable of all of this. Were you given any warnings?
No.
Nobody said anything from the police?
No.
You had no security?
No. Now only we have the security.
Too late?
Yes, absolutely too late.
At least 4 Americans are among the dead. Police have made more arrests here. The government says 1 or 2 local groups with foreign help was behind this. But no one has yet claimed responsibility. The FBI now working with investigators to solve one of the world's worst terror attacks.
And Bill, just this morning, as we understand it, ISIS is claiming involvement. What exactly did they say?
Yeah, just in the last few minutes, Savannah, they said through their so-called official news agency that they were responsible. Now, they've made claims like this about attacks all over the world in the past, and US officials have pointed out they offer no evidence, and indeed this morning they have offered no evidence that they were involved in this. US officials tell NBC News that while the local Islamist groups are inspired by ISIS, there is actually no evidence on the ground that ISIS or indeed Al-Qaeda were directly involved in these attacks. And this morning, a new terror alert. Authorities warning of suspect vehicles that might be filled with explosives. So this is a city and indeed a country still very much on edge. Back to you.
All right, Bill Neely starting us off. Thank you, Bill.
Now to the faces of this attack. More than 300 victims, among them at least 4 Americans. And this morning, their families are speaking out. NBC's Stephanie Gosk joins us with their story. Steph, good morning. And one of these stories is just a heartbreaking story about a young boy.
Yeah, it really is, Craig. It does break your heart. You know, the impact of these bombings is being felt around the world, including several communities here in the U.S. One of the youngest victims, a student from an elite Washington, D.C. school that Chelsea Clinton and the Obama daughters attended.
Kieran Shafritz de Zoysa was a 5th grader who dreamed of being a neuroscientist. The 11-year-old who had taken time off from Washington, D.C.'s prestigious Sidwell Friends School to study in Sri Lanka, now among the youngest victims killed in the bombings.
He was a very special young man, very special.
Kieran was having breakfast with his mother and grandmother at a hotel when a suicide bomber blew himself up at the buffet. Kieran texted his dad just minutes before the attack.
Now he's never going to be a teenager. He was going to do great things for the world, and the terrorists have taken something from this world.
Most of those killed on Sunday were Sri Lankans attending Easter services. But the capital, Colombo, is an international hub for business and tourism. The lobbies of 3 luxury hotels attacked were packed with foreigners. More than 30 people from at least a dozen different countries lost their lives. Dieter Kowalski was another one of the 4 Americans killed. The 40-year-old from Denver, described by friends as big-hearted and selfless, was traveling for work, writing on Facebook just before he left. And the fun begins. Love these work trips. 24 hours of flying. See you soon, Sri Lanka. Dieter checked into his hotel shortly before the attack.
I just kind of feel numb. Like he's not gone, or I'm going to wake up and the nightmare is going to be gone, and he's going to be there.
Denmark's wealthiest man, Anders Povsen, and his wife lost 3 of their 4 children. The family was on vacation. And authorities confirm a Sri Lankan celebrity chef was killed. Her daughter, who also lost her life, posting this photo moments before the blast. A simple caption: Easter breakfast with family.
So much loss, Stephanie. What more do we know about the 2 unnamed American victims?
Well, the State Department hasn't released names, and you could probably understand why in the confusion. So many people killed. But this theme that we see over and over again, this was a Sunday morning. These were families, parents with their children. The stories are just heartbreaking.
Stephanie Gosk. Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. We move now to Washington. There's a fight there, of course, over the Mueller report. The president trying to turn the page. Democrats, including the 2020 presidential candidates, are in the midst of a hot debate on whether to pursue impeachment. NBC White House correspondent Peter Alexander with the latest. Peter, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning to you. Top House Democrats, led by Nancy Pelosi, are promising to push ahead with aggressive investigations into President Trump in the wake of the redacted Mueller report, and for the moment pumping the brakes on any immediate push for impeachment. Still, many within Pelosi's party, including some of those Democratic 2020 candidates, want action now. Overnight, Democratic presidential hopefuls weighing in on possible impeachment in a series of town halls on CNN.
I believe Congress should take the steps towards impeachment.
I think he's made it pretty clear that he deserves impeachment. I'll leave it to the... But I'm also going to leave it to the House and Senate to figure that out.
If you've actually read the Mueller report, it's all laid out there. It's not like it's going to take a long time to figure this out.
But not everyone is on board.
If for the next year, year and a half, all that the Congress is talking about is impeaching Trump and Trump and Mueller, what I worry about is that works to Trump's advantage.
Bernie Sanders' comments coming as Democrats debate their next steps. On a conference call late Monday, agreeing they should keep investigating, but making no commitment to pursue impeachment yet. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, according to a source on the call, saying if it is what we need to do to honor our responsibility to the Constitution, if that's the place the facts take us, that's the place we have to go. Earlier in the day, the president brushing off the prospect of impeachment at the annual White House Easter egg rolls.
Are you worried about impeachment, Mr. President?
Not even a little bit. But his tweets appear to tell a different story, venting his anger, writing only high crimes and misdemeanors can lead to impeachment. Democrats are now zeroing in on former White House counsel Don McGahn, one of Mueller's star witnesses, issuing a subpoena to learn more about instances of possible obstruction of justice, including President Trump's attempt to get McGahn to have Mueller removed, an order McGahn defied. The president dismissing his own aide's accounts.
Are you worried that your staff is ignoring your orders as the Mueller report portrays?
Nobody disobeys my orders.
Peter, it's clear within the Democratic Party there are some people really pushing for impeachment and some saying, wait a minute, let's hold off. What's the reason behind that divide?
Yeah, you know, Savannah, there is new polling that shows more Americans actually oppose than support the beginning of impeachment proceedings. By calling for thorough investigations but holding off impeachment, Nancy Pelosi here is really trying to avoid an issue that would certainly be divisive, political, and potentially hurt Democrats' chances of winning back the White House, knowing full well that it would never get through a Republican Senate. For his part, already this morning, the president is once again complaining on Twitter about both Democrats and the media. Savannah.
All right. Peter, thank you very much.
Another powerful earthquake rocked the Philippines overnight, just one day after a 6.1 quake hit the country's north, killing at least 11 people. Take a look at this video here following Monday's quake. You can see rescuers pulling a survivor from a collapsed building there. Several people are still missing. There are multiple structures, including a supermarket and an airport, were also badly damaged by the quake. There were no reports of injuries following today's 6.5 magnitude earthquake.
New this morning, troubling allegations against a head coach in the NBA, Luke Walton, being sued for sexual assault just days after he was hired by the Sacramento Kings. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer has the details on that. Miguel, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Luke Walton is the son of NBA legend Bill Walton. The younger Walton had a solid NBA career, winning 2 championships with the Lakers before joining the coaching ranks. Now a sports reporter is claiming in a new lawsuit that Luke Walton forced himself on her in a hotel room several years ago.
This morning, NBA coach Luke Walton is the target of a sexual assault lawsuit. Former sports reporter Kelli Tennant alleges Walton groped and forcibly kissed her in a California hotel room. The suit, filed late Monday and obtained by NBC News, does not specify a date, only saying the alleged incident happened when Walton was an assistant coach with the Golden State Warriors before he became the head coach of the Lakers in 2016. According to the suit, Tennant says she considered Walton a friend and mentor and was also friendly with his wife. She even asked Walton to write the foreword to a book she was writing. Tennant says when she tried to give him a copy of the book, he invited her to his hotel room. That's when, according to the complaint, Walton allegedly pinned her to the bed, using his full body weight to hold her down, groping her, forcibly kissing her, and grinding up against her. Tennant says she was terrified and yelled, "Stop it," as she tried to free herself. Tennant says when Walton finally released her, he laughed, saying, "Good to see you." Walton was let go by the Lakers nearly 2 weeks ago, following 3 losing seasons. The 39-year-old was hired by the Sacramento Kings just 24 hours later. The Kings releasing a statement overnight saying, "We are aware of the report and are gathering additional information." The Warriors releasing a similar statement saying in part they only learned of the alleged incident and story last night. Walton, the son of NBA Hall of Famer Bill Walton, was an NBA player himself, retiring and transitioning to coaching. Now an NBA coach with a new job is facing new legal troubles.
NBC News has reached out to both Luke Walton and his accuser, but we have not heard back. An attorney for Kelli Tennant says she plans to hold a news conference later today. Guys, back to you.
Miguel Almaguer on the breaking news. Thank you.
Some big news on the tech front this morning. Consumers will have to wait a little bit longer to get their hands on Samsung's new Galaxy Fold smartphone. The company announcing Monday that it's delaying the launch of that phone, which has a price tag of nearly $2,000. The Fold was supposed to be released on Friday. There are reports, though, that the phones may have an issue with their displays. 2 reviewers say their devices actually broke after they mistakenly removed an outer plastic layer that was meant to stay on the phone. Samsung has not revealed a new release date for the Galaxy Fold.
All right, 7:15 had our look at the first bit of the news. We've got Dylan in for the forecast. Hey, Dylan, good morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody. And we do have some heavy rain this morning moving through Oklahoma City, also the panhandle of Texas, some cloud-to-ground lightning as well. So we do have some pretty strong thunderstorms, although they're not producing any kind of severe weather at this time. This is all dragged along this stationary front that is draped through Oklahoma and into Texas. So we're going to see very unsettled weather across Texas for the next couple of days. As we go into tonight and tomorrow, that threat shifts closer to Dallas and eventually makes its way towards Houston as we go into Wednesday night and Thursday morning. This area of low pressure will ride along this front into the Midwest and into the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys as we go into Thursday. We could see some isolated stronger storms, damaging winds, the lightning that's dangerous, and the heavier downpours, too. We could see the possibility of some flash flooding, although it's not all that likely. But when you get hourly rates of about 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour with storm totals up to about 4 to 5 inches, that, of course, does lead to the threat of flooding, and that is mainly across central Texas.